why. The outcome of Saturday obviously isn't what we wanted or expected, and we really spent the last 48 hours or 36 hours just continue to figure out why. We know what happened, but why did it happen? And the biggest thing is you can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect to win a game versus a good opponent, and we can't do that, and we have to continue to work on the reasons that was the result of. The second thing is we got to continue to find ways to establish the run, and we got to be more successful in those third and short yard situations. And so the offensive staff and everybody included will continue to find ways to attack it and to make sure that we're more efficient in those areas. Defensively, the biggest thing was the missed tackles on the second and third level that led to big plays. And it didn't happen often, but the times that it happened, they led to touchdowns. And so we have to make sure that we continue to enhance the way we're tackling at the second and third level. And but I thought our defense did a really good job of battling all night, and they were put in some difficult situations and did a great job of just continuously battling. And so, most importantly, what we can't do is make excuses for why the outcome was what it was, and we can't let others make excuses for us. And it's my job to make sure this team is ready to perform on the stage that being a part of the Notre Dame football program presents. And every week it's going to present this stage and this opportunity, and I have to make sure this team is ready to go. And so the best thing about this week is we got to get back to work and get prepared for a great opponent in USC coming in here Saturday night. We expect it to be an electric atmosphere, a great environment, and a great opportunity for this program to use the adversity we faced from this past week and to use it as energy and motivation to get back to work and to prepare for this great opponent in USC. So, as I told the staff, if you're an elite competitor, which I know I am and we are, that you don't pick and choose, when you get ready for an opponent. And you have to continue to get ready the way we're supposed to, even after a loss. And I know our staff will, and we've been doing it, and we'll continue to do it as we prepare for this game. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
We'll start in the third row on your left, Tim Priester.
Coach, you talk about those third and short situations. I know there was one time where Louisville had 10 in the box and the play wasn't changed. How much leeway does Sam Hartman have in making a decision in those situations?
We give him freedom in certain aspects to change the call, but sometimes there's no option to change the call. If we want to run the ball, we got to run the ball. And a lot of times those situations, I'll tell Coach Parker that, hey, this is a 4-down situation. Hey, you got 2 plays to get the first down here. But then all of a sudden, twice it happened, we got to tackle for loss. And when we get tackles for loss, then I have to decide to punt or take a field goal. So what we got to do is figure out why those tackle for losses happen. And that's what I told Coach Parker and his staff. It's not as much the play call. It's how do we make sure that if we call this play, we can execute it. Because if we don't have an answer for what they're doing, then we probably shouldn't call that play.
What specifics, or I guess maybe issues or concerns do you have with the play calling? And when you do bog down like this, do you get guys like your quarterback's coach and your offensive line coach with previous play calling experience involved in the process?
Yeah, it's everything we do as an offensive staff is a collaborative effort, and we talk about it. And so, I have no issues with the play calling, right? I have issues with the execution. And that's what we have to attack. We can blame it on the call. We can blame it on anything we want. But the reality is, if we feel strongly enough to call that play, then we have to have answers for why it did or doesn't work. And so that's where I'm attacking is why didn't it work? If this guy was supposed to do that and he was supposed to do that, then that's the issue. We have to make sure our guys are crystal clear on what they need to do and don't make mistakes.
Front row on your right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach, I know you wanted to kind of look at film to evaluate how the offensive line rotation went. So having done that, how did the offensive line rotation go as well as I think Tosh Baker coming in at right tackle at the end of the game.
Yeah, Tosh coming in was, Blake had a right hand or left hand injury, that just couldn't really feel like that last series he could perform the way he needed to. Him and Coach Rudolph didn't, so we put Tosh in that last series to finish the game. You know what, the performance of the offensive line was decent. We got to get better. That's the reality of it. We got to get better, and we had a plan going into that game to roll guys and to see if we could elevate the play as a whole. I was really pleased with the way Zeke stepped up and was challenged, obviously, from the week before with a couple false start penalties, and he really stepped up. The guards were solid. We have to continue to get better, but across the board, we have to continue to improve. And so I can't say it was great. I don't want to say it was terrible. It was just, it was solid, and we got to get better.
Where are you with, I know you guys have the depth chart there, but, where are you with Shrouth? Where are you with moving forward and trying to, again, reestablish continuity and all the things that you look for in offensive line play?
Yeah, I think, again, we had a plan for two reasons last week to roll guys. Cougs had a knee injury that he really didn't practice Tuesday, practice Wednesday and Thursday, but didn't do everything we needed on Tuesday. So we had a plan to kind of roll Billy in there and wanted to get Kristofik a couple plays at center, really to create competition, but also, again, to see how Zeke and those guys would respond. And so they responded well. Billy played well when he was in there, and I thought the guards played well. And so we all have to continue to improve.
We'll go to the back with the cameras. Levon Whitaker.
Coach, I'm curious, you knew the schedule obviously coming into the season months before, but is there a thought that maybe your guys are maybe mentally or physically, tired, seeing if they're going 7-8 straight weeks without a bye?
I don't use that as a reason for a lack of performance. Now, every week you evaluate how you prepare. And that's something that we'll continuously do. What do we feel is best to get our guys prepared for this game? And so as the head coach, I take ownership of saying they weren't prepared the way we needed them to be prepared to play Louisville. And so as I go back to this week in the preparation, I say, okay, what do we believe it's going to take to make sure Saturday night at Notre Dame Stadium we're ready to go? And so what I don't want to do, Levon, is use being tired as an excuse, right? And I don't want our players to use that as an excuse. We're not tired. You played Saturday night. You got all day to rest, And you know what? That's what a part of playing at Notre Dame is about. Man, we're fortunate. We get 4 primetime games, and that's how we got to look at it. We get another primetime game versus USC in Notre Dame Stadium. And if you don't have the bubbles in your stomach, then you're not the elite competitor we need you to be. Right, I think when you say that, man, maybe we're tired, it's our 4th primetime game versus a ranked opponent and all these different things, that just leaves room for excuses, and that's something that I won't let our guys do.
Second row on your right, Sean Stiers.
Hey, Marcus, I wanted to ask you about Jordan Faison. We, obviously got to see he's not the typical walk-on during training camp, and then we got to see his debut the other night. What were some of the things that went into that process of getting him on the field for the first time?
Jordan had gotten scholarship offers out of high school by a lot of different football programs, but he is a national lacrosse prospect, and he was committed to Notre Dame to play lacrosse, and we wanted him part of our football program. And so he's been a talented individual from the moment he stepped on his campus in fall camp, and he has shown that he has a lot of ability. He's continued to improve throughout the first 6-7 weeks of the season, and because of some injuries, we moved him 3 weeks ago. He might have been on scout team. He was on scout team 3 weeks ago, and then we had some injuries, and we started moving him up with the travel squad, and he's continuously gotten better and gained the trust of his coaches. And we knew going into this game we're going to play him. I couldn't tell you that he was going to go and score a touchdown and have another big catch, but we had a lot of faith and trust that he could perform, or we wouldn't have put him in there. And so it was really good to see him make those plays, right? To do it in practice is one, but to make them in the game is another thing, and he did it.
So is he part of the plan going forward?
Absolutely.
And also I was wondering if you can kind of clarify, because you mentioned the lacrosse scholarship, kind of clarify what the implications of that are, like what happens with the scholarship going forward since he's played football now?
So he'll be on football scholarship moving forward. So Coach Corrigan doesn't have to worry about that anymore. That's all. That's what that means, is that he's on football scholarship.
But he's still playing lacrosse too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Third row on your left, Pete Byrne.
Yeah. Marcus, we've heard you say several times that part of the identity of this team is that you want it to be O-line and D-line dominant. Do you feel like you're where you want to be there right now?
Are we dominating a line of scrimmage? No. We didn't do that offensively. I thought defensively we did a really good job. You always say if we didn't give up the two explosive runs for touchdowns, but if is a good and a bad word at times. But I thought our D-line played well. I thought they got after the quarterback. I thought they put pressure. I thought for the most part we were able to stop the run for the most part, right? Again, you take away those two big runs. But I thought I was pleased with the play of our D-line. And because those big, long runs, that doesn't mean it's the D-line's fault, right? Those were fit issues. We got to fit the right gap we're in, and we got to tackle, right? And so I don't blame that on our defensive line. But offensively, if you're not able to run the ball the way we want to, then we didn't dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's where we have to improve.
You said you've spent a lot of time trying to identify the why you didn't execute, whether it's run game, turnovers, etc. What are two of the three of the biggest whys that you found that you guys need to attack this week, and then how will you attack them?
Well, I think if you look at the turnovers, each one had a different reason. The very first one by Sam, and Sam would tell you he wished he threw a better ball, but Rico's got to do a better job of not letting that ball get caught. You turn into a defender. And so it's not pointing a finger at anybody. It's pointing a finger at everybody. And that's what we have to do. I can't even remember the other four. Next one was an exchange issue, right, between Sam and CT. And that's got to be executed better in practice. So no matter what happens in the game, it was a look that we have seen in practice. We talked about it, and we got to execute that better in terms of not letting that end put pressure on Sam to feel like he's got to get rid of the ball so fast, and continue to make sure that no matter what, that ball's not on the ground. And then we got to protect Sam, right? We got to protect him better and not let him get hit on the one that was a sack fumble, and we got to make sure we protect him. So a lot of different areas. Each play, there can be a different reason for why we didn't execute. But that's the reality of it is instead of just saying, hey, we can't have 5 turnovers. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's everybody knows that. But how do we continue to make sure that we don't do it? Just like we said with the pre-snap penalties 2 weeks ago. We can't use crowd noise as an excuse. We got to continue to figure out why and have a plan to address those things. And so the same thing will happen this week.
Second row, middle right, Chuck Freeby.
Caleb Williams had probably an off night by his standards Saturday, and they still scored 43. What makes him elite?
He's one of those guys that are as good as advertised. There's a reason why he's the Heisman Trophy winner. He is very elite with arm talent, with decision-making, with the ability to extend plays. He is a well-rounded, very talented football player. So our defense will have its work cut out for him for sure.
When you put on the film of them, what gives you confidence that your team will beat USC Saturday?
Well, we don't worry about beating USC as much as how do we continue to focus on reaching our full potential. And that's the pressure I put on our team and our program is what are we doing to make sure we reach our full potential? And the result of that will be the result of that. And so that's my concern, and that's my focus is what do we have to do as a program to make sure we're performing the way we need to on Saturday night. And part of that is game planning for an opponent, right? It's a challenging, truly challenging team to prepare for. We know offensively they are probably the best or one of the best in the country and the most challenging you'll have to prepare for. And defensively, I've heard the things that, hey, maybe their defense isn't as good. Their defense is talented. And all you got to do is watch the film and see how they play. So they got an extremely good football program. They're 6-0, and it's a tough challenge for us, but we'll be ready.
Second row on your left, Tyler James.
Marcus, you talked about how your defense has done a good job except for some explosive runs. On the other side, Audric Estime has been pretty limited other than his 30-yard touchdown run against Duke in the last 2 games. What explains the ineffectiveness? Is it as simple as the offensive line, or is there some predictability within the offense that defenses are doing a good job with?
Again, I don't. If we're going to call, we keep saying the word predictability. If we're going to call a play, right, there's a reason we call it, and we feel like it can have success. We have to execute it. We have to execute it. A lot of offenses are predictable, but you can't stop them. Right? We can say we know what USC is going to do, but you have to stop them. Right? And so the same thing with us is that, we have to find ways to continue to get the ball in Audric's hands. Right? And what we can't do is put our team and our offense in a position where we feel like we have to throw the ball all the time because we're down 10, down 14, down 21. We can't do that. But we have to block better, and it's not just the O-line. Right? Our perimeter, our wideouts, our tight ends, everybody has a piece in blocking. And we have to make sure we're blocking. And a lot of times, if you don't have success running the ball, everybody says it's the offensive line's fault or it's predictable or, whatever term we want to use. But there's a lot of people involved with making sure they get their job done so we can have success running the ball. So it all boils down to coaching. I'm not going to point my finger at the players. It's coaching and making sure that our guys know exactly what to do, and then they go do it so we can execute on a play that maybe you can predict what we're doing.
Then how do you explain the difference between how well it was being executed in the first 5 or 6 games and then how it's been executed?
Yeah, that's the thing, right, is that where's the confusion happening? Right? Where's the lack of execution? Why are we making mistakes? And that's what we have to continue to figure out and attack. Right? And no matter who's in the game, we have to attack that and figure out why is this person not doing his job or isn't he? And that's what we have to continue to work on. Yep.
Third row on your right, Tim O'Malley.
Coach, first injury question might be better for Thursday, but Thomas Harper in concussion protocol was his
He'll be back.
He'll be back. And
Yep.
then Gabriel Rubio
He'll be back.
going forward. This one's kind of an operational question, but it does relate to Faison because you pulled him up from the scout team. When you need a guy to help a position group like that, and he just comes up from the scout team, and then he has that success, is it difficult to continue rolling him through there because he doesn't have the knowledge? He probably doesn't have the full knowledge of the package of everything that you guys want to do, or is it just something where, hey, he's had success, let's force him in there a little bit more?
Well, I think it starts with talent, but then the ability to play fast. And so the ability to play fast is the ability to understand what you're doing. And so when we brought him up from the scout team, it was because of talent level, right? And then the ability in a couple weeks to show that he can play fast, play to the talent level that he has, is because he can understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. And so no, he's shown the ability to learn it, grasp it, what we're doing each week in our offensive game plan, and then go execute it.
Is it a natural progression to play more as a person gets their feet wet in one game coming off the scout team, that you actually could have a bigger work volume going forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Coach, you mentioned Blake Fisher had a hand injury at the end of that game. Is that expected to be an issue this week? And then Jaden Greathouse, was he 100%? I think he only played 17
You know
snaps.
what? He didn't. Again, he was in practice. He was practicing, but not to the full extent. And so, I would see him having an increased role as long as he continues to practice the way we need him to practice.
And then you mentioned tackling at the second and third levels at USC, some of the most elusive players in the country. What kind of needs to improve to have a chance against those guys?
Yeah, you gotta make them, and you gotta keep working on it in practice. That's the only thing we can talk about, is making sure how do we work on it in practice, still be safe and get to the game, but also make sure that attributes to Saturday making the play. And so we got to continue to work on it and continue to talk about angles, talk about fundamentals, talking about putting guys in positions where they can make that play.
Front row on your right, Pete Sampson.
Mark, when you talk about execution in your offense, it's versatile, it's multiple. Does that put almost an undue pressure on those guys to execute if you're doing so much stuff, opposed to having like some, hey, we're pin and pull.
Yeah. We have to simplify so our guys don't have mistakes, right? To make sure that our guys, when we have mistakes, you got to look at yourself as a coach and say, why are our guys having mistakes? And if we have to simplify, we have to do. That's the biggest thing. You talk about the difference between 2 weeks ago till now is like, okay, we're making mistakes IDing in the run game, and why aren't we blocking this guy? So we have to simplify to make sure there is crystal clarity on what we need to do.
And immediately after the game, you went to preparation. You felt like the guys weren't prepared. As you sort of audited last week in terms of how many periods of practice you had, how intense it was, what did you find out, or what did you think about post-game, and then how do you adjust that this week?
Yeah, I don't every week you plan, and we didn't change the total amount of time we practice. We changed exactly what we're doing within those periods, right? You can have periods that are run through and periods that are actual, full speed. And, again, this week we look and say, okay, what do we think we need in a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and a Thursday to be prepared for Saturday night? And so, again, each week changes by a period or two in terms of where you put that period. Is that a run-through period, or is that a true physical, get after it period? And so, we tweaked it for what we feel like is best for this week. And so I'm always going to go back and say, okay, if we didn't play well, it's got to be a preparation issue, and say, okay, what I can't do is get up there in front of the room and say, hey, guys, we're going to do the exact same thing we did last week, but expect different results. That's insanity,
More, would it be fair to say more full speed this week then? Or?
There might be 1, 2. Okay. Yeah, that's not. No, we're not drastically changing. Not at all.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horga.
Sort of piggybacking off of Tyler's question, but not looking at the running game and Audric specifically, but the offense as a whole. What have you found to be the biggest reasons why the offense isn't executing the way it was those first 4 games, the last 3, outside of obviously playing 3 better opponents?
Yeah. Again, it goes to me, you have to establish the run game, and we have to find different ways to do that, and so that's to me why we haven't been as effective as a complete offense, because you're putting yourself in third and long situations, which are really hard to execute in college football. And so I think we have to do a better job of putting our guys in place to be able to run the ball with more efficiency.
You mentioned third down and third and long. Obviously, we talked about third and short a little earlier. Do you guys have effective plans in place for third and long at this point, being that you're facing so many of them? How have you tried to attack that differently? Say, hey, we're getting in a lot of third and long situations. Maybe we can do some things differently to try to convert those.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that we want to be more effective on first and second down. I don't want to spend more time saying let's get more third and long calls. I would rather spend more time saying let's be more effective on first and second down.
Right behind Tyler to Mike Bernardino.
The idea of Colsey's timeline, I don't know if maybe you have more information on that. When do you expect him back?
It would be something maybe post-bye week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Williams, the idea of your pass rushing lanes and your pass rushers not getting frustrated because he is so instinctive and extending the plays, and how useful could Sneed be in that sort of...
How can what?
Jalen Sneed.
Yeah.
Who you gave kind of a third down package role to the other day. How useful could his athletic ability be in chasing down an all-time athlete?
Yeah, I think Jalen did a good job in third down defense and passing situations versus Louisville. He brings a burst and explosiveness that we feel we need in those situations. But, on first and second down, you can run the ball too. I don't know if we want Jalen Sneed in there playing D-tackle. Right now. And so, again, do I think he can help us in passing situations? Absolutely. But, we have to understand, we have to control our rush this week. You can't end up behind the quarterback because he'll extend plays, expose you, as he did last year at times. And so we got to be really disciplined this week.
Thank you, Coach.
Oh, thanks, guys.